Today we are going to be talking about a very interesting topic, and that topic is custom data forms. And we're going to talk about and discuss how to create these, how to attach them, and use them. And I guess a good question to ask is, what is a custom data form? Well, a custom data form is a form with fields in it that you can customize and individually tailor those fields that you would then be able to attach to cases, persons, or items with the intent of getting additional information. And then you can take that additional information and put it onto a label or into a report. You can run searches against it. And we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. So let's say that you're a law enforcement agency, for example, and you want additional funds for, fill in the blank. Maybe you want additional funding for tasers, or you don't have a canine unit but would like one. How can you make the business case and prove to your chief or to your supervisors that this might be warranted? Well, a good way to do that would be to create custom forms with some custom fields in them, and we're going to go through that shortly. Or perhaps you're an eDiscovery firm that's entering in hard drives or cell phones in the safe, and you want to enhance and streamline the item entry process. How would you be able to do that? Would you be able to click on maybe the maker or manufacturer of a phone or a hard drive like Apple or Samsung or Seagate or Western Digital, and then have all of those manufacturers' models show up? Well, yeah, absolutely. You can do that with custom data forms and conditional fields. And conditional fields, which we're also going to be diving into a little bit, are fields that are dependent on a previous field being chosen. And so we'll take a look at that here shortly as well. So the first thing you're going to do is get logged in. And the first thing we're going to talk about is maybe we'll do the canine unit for law enforcement. You're a law enforcement agency and you want to pick up a canine unit because you don't have one. So the first thing you're probably going to want to do is go into tools, and then you're going to want to go to custom data forms, and we're going to create that form. All right, so I have a few forms in here already, but when you go into tools, custom data forms, and if you're an org admin, you would be able to get into this section. If you're not, then you won't be. So you have to be an org admin to do this. And you can go into custom data forms, and we're just going to click add, and we're going to add that form. And so maybe you have the name of your agency, and you can call the form something. Now, after naming the form, you need to attach it to some type of thing, whether that be a case, or you can attach it to items or people or tasks. In this case, I'm going to attach my form, my canine unit form, to cases. And over here on the left is my canvas. And I want to drag one of these templates from my palette onto the canvas. And the first thing from my palette I'm going to select is a selectable list because I just like them. So I'm going to click the plus there. And that's going to put that selectable list here on my canvas, where I'm now going to click the wrench icon and start to customize this area. So the display name is what I'm going to change. I'm just going to simply ask the question, could a canine have been used on this case? And we're going to go to options next, and then I can put in some values for these fields. And we're going to say no. and yes. And we're not going to give them a not applicable or anything else. We're just going to say yes or no. And because I want people to give me a yes or no answer, I don't want them to skip over this because I want to get data from day one that I put this into effect. I'm going to go to validation and I'm going to make this a required field. So as you'll see, the box turned red and there's a little red asterisk there now, denoting it's a required field. All right, so we're asking the question, could a canine have been used on this case? Yes or no? And maybe we can add another field onto this now. So why don't we add a checkbox list? And now you can ask another question. So we're going to click the wrench icon to configure the field. And now we can display, we can change the display name to something else. Maybe we could do canine alerted on something. And so maybe we have some options here now. We could say canine alerted on drugs, or maybe we want to specify the area of a person or an item that the canine alerted on. Canine alerted on the suspect. Canine alerted on the vehicle trunk. Vehicle interior. Vehicle exterior. So you could do something like that. So now I don't want both of these fields just to show up. And so what I want to do in this case is, do I want to make this required? No, I'm not going to make this field required, but I want this field to show up dependent on what someone has chosen, yes or no, in this first field. So I'm going to go to conditions, my conditions tab here, and click conditional, the conditional checkbox. And now I'm going to make this field dependent on this previous field of could a canine have been used on this case? And this will show up if they select yes. And now we're going to go down here and click OK. And our custom form should now be there. And there it is down here at the bottom. We've named it, we've attached it to cases, and that's it. Now we have our custom form. So now we have to take this a little bit further. And we have the form in place, but now we need to go in and we need to attach that form to cases so that when a case, all cases, or certain cases show up, that form will be present. So we'll do that by going into Settings, Organization. And once again, you're going to need to be an org admin to, by default, have all these capabilities to do this. We're going to go into Settings, Organization. And up here at the top, these three tabs relate to the required case, item, or person forms. We created a case form. So we're going to go into the required case forms tab. And then we need to select our form, our canine unit form. And then I think I am just going to attach this form to everything. Although you can pick and choose whatever you would like to attach it to. We'll leave eDiscovery out. We've got computer crime. Yeah, that looks good. We'll save it there. And so now that we've done all that, when I go to add a case now, any of the cases that we have selected, such as accident or arson, we'll do accident and click next. At the bottom of our case entry field should be our form. And there it is. There's our canine unit form, asking the question, could a canine have been used on this case, and requiring us to answer. So if we select no, nothing happens and we can move on with life. If we select yes, then we get these additional conditional fields. The canine alerted on the suspect, as well as maybe the vehicle's trunk, or whatever you would like to put in it. And then from there, once you fill out all the required fields, you can save and continuing adding items. Now you can take this a little bit further. So now once you do this, once your officers, agents, whoever does this, you're going to start collecting that data, which is awesome. But now what can you do with that data? Well, let's start doing some searches. Okay, so let's search on cases. And for this particular search, I want to know all the cases between a certain date range, because date ranges are just important to me. And so I'm going to search through January 1st through December 31st of this year. So that's going to encompass all of 2021. And after that, I'm going to go down here to search in custom data. And this is where that custom data form is going to be housed that we can search against. So I'm going to turn this slider from off to on. And there is our form. Now, if our form was not there, you could use this drop down to choose the form and pull that up. And the field is, could a canine have been used? And we're saying equals, and no is showing up by default. But we want to know if a canine could have been used. So we're going to select yes. And instead of searching that to get results, we're going to save that instead. And we're going to call it something. We'll say cases where a canine could have been used, and we'll click OK. All right, great. So we have a message here that tells us that we saved the search. And now we're going to do something with the search that we just saved. We're going to go back to our dashboard, and we're going to create a widget out of that. And we already have a couple widgets on our dashboard, and widgets relate to some kind of a saved search. So on my dashboard, I'm going to click my Add Widget box. And I'm going to go down here and click on Statistics because I want to get stats about something. And I did that, and that should have put a widget box on my dashboard somewhere. There it is at the bottom. It's called Widget 1. I think I'm going to rename it. So I'll click the icon to the left of the X to rename the Widget 1 box to something else. There we go, canine unit information. And now I'm going to start putting in any searches that relate to that inside of this widget box. And I'll do that by clicking the blue circle with the white plus icon here. And that brings up the Add Statistic pop-up, where in the Save Search field, I can now click in that drop-down. And at the very, very bottom of this is our search that we just saved. Cases where a canine could have been used. Everything here is going to get pre-populated, where I'm not going to change any of those fields, and I'm just going to save that. And that is going to give me a count, which will update whenever a canine could have been used on a case. That count will update incrementally. To get the latest, greatest results in there, you can click the refresh icon, and the widget time, date, and the timestamp right here in the lower left-hand corner will update. And that is now going to just give you information over the course of the next year, letting you know what cases there are where a canine could have been used. And now also, in addition to that, say, you know, the chief or your supervisor really likes what you've done. Or a coworker says, you know what, hey, that's pretty cool. I'd like a copy of that. Well, all they need to know is the widget ID number, which would be 7-2. And if they're a member in your organization in SAFE, all they have to do is log into SAFE, go to their dashboard, and they can click on their add widget box, and they can click copy user widget, the third one down. And when they do that, if they put in the widget ID of 7-2 and click OK, then a copy of this widget will then be on their dashboard. So that's pretty cool. So one of the awesome things about SAFE is once somebody builds out one of these widgets, everyone else can copy off of them. So that is our first scenario for a canine unit and making the case, the business case that there's a need for additional units or a unit to begin with. All right, so the next case that we're going to talk about is maybe one that's dealing with an eDiscovery firm. Maybe you're entering in cell phones or hard drives or something. And how can you start to streamline the item entry process? So let's discuss that. And we're going to go back into tools and go back into our custom data forms. And from here, we are going to add another form. All right. And the form we're going to, let's see, what can we call this form? We'll call it cell phone makers. And instead, this time of attaching this form to cases, we want to attach it to items because we want to capture additional item information. All right. And once again, our canvas at the moment is blank. So we need to add some things from our palette to our canvas and start configuring those. So let's add another selectable list. And I'll do that by going down here to the selectable list field, clicking the plus. And that's going to put a selectable list field here where I'm now going to click the wrench icon to configure the field. And let's change the display name. Cell phone maker manufacturer. And let's go with some options here. Okay, there's Apple. They're fairly big. LG, they probably make phones. Samsung. There we go. And so we have some cell phone manufacturers. In addition to that, let's throw a checkbox list on here. So let's click the plus there. And actually, let me go back to the cell phone manufacturer because we just got through the properties, the display name, and the options. You know what I think I want to do, go back and do, is I want to make that a required field. So if a cell phone is entered, someone's going to have to pick, was it an Apple, LG, Samsung? And we can go back in and put other in there. But they have to choose something. That way I know that I'm collecting data as soon as this form gets activated, because people aren't allowed to skip that. All right, so let's go and talk about our checkbox list now. What can we have for like a cell phone manufacturer that would kind of relate in a checkbox field? Let's click the wrench icon and put some values in here. What relates to cell phones? What's cell phones? What do cell phones have? Memory. There we go. So I don't know. I think 32 gigs might be on the low end, but 64 gigs, 128, and now we run out of room. Just click the blue plus here, and we can continue to add options. So what is that? 256, 512, etc., etc. Or you can even have another at that point. I don't think I'm going to make this. I don't think I'm going to make this a required field, and I don't think I'm going to make this conditional on the field here that we've entered, because when somebody pulls up a cell phone, I just want them to be able to choose what amount of memory that phone has. And let's see here, what else could we do with this? Let's add another checkbox list, and let's configure this one. And we'll go with model this time. And our options, we need to kind of lay out. But this field, I do want to make conditional on the first field that we put in, the cell phone manufacturer. And I want to talk about Apple. And so what phones does Apple have? I couldn't even tell you at this point. I think they have an iPhone 6 and maybe an iPhone 7, iPhone 11. Let's add some more. iPhone 11 Pro, maybe. So, I mean, you can continue on until whenever. And I would like to now, I don't necessarily want to make this one required, but I will go to conditions, and I do want to make it conditional off of the cell phone manufacturer field, but only if they pick Apple. And so now we can kind of continue on this path by creating another customizable checkbox list for all the other different manufacturers like LG or Samsung, etc. And actually, you know what? Let's make memory required as well. We'll just change that around so they have to pick something. Well, no, we'll be nice. We won't do that. We'll just click OK at this point. And once again, the only thing that we're doing this cell phone manufacturer dependent conditional field for is Apple at the moment. We have not gone through and built out LG, Samsung, or other. Okay, so there are our cell phone makers, and I'm going to rename that to manufacturers. All right, that's better. Okay, so there's our custom data form that we've attached to items, or we're going to be attaching to items. It's tied to items. And so now that we've created our custom data form, we are now going to go into settings once again and organization. And we're going to go into our required item forms. And we need to now select the form that we just created. There it is, cell phone manufacturers. We'll select it. And now I only want this form to show up when cell phones are entered. because why would you want it to show up for everything? So we're only going to select cell phones and save those changes. And so now let's go into a case. And let's go to items. And let's add another item to this case. And we're going to choose from the category cell phone. And click next. So we can fill in our required information up here at the top. Maybe a Wally Wash laundromat. And when was this item recovered? We'll just say today. Cell phone, maybe it was found property. It's checked in. Let's put it somewhere. Put in temp blockers. Oh, can't store anything there. Put in a /. Bring temp blocker 2. And now there is our custom data form asking us, okay, who is the cell phone manufacturer? So now if we choose Samsung or LG, nothing happens. But if we pick Apple, there we go. We're going to be asked for that model of phone, whether it was iPhone 11 Pro, how much memory it has, and also I have attached the make, model, serial number for this as well, but I can detach that form from that where this would only show up. Another thing actually that I want to do is I want to see if I can actually get this a little bit nicer, where maybe memory shows up after you choose the manufacturer and the model. So I'm going to go back into Tools and the Custom Data Forms, pull up the cell phone manufacturer's form, and edit it. Okay, so now what do I do? Because my cell phone manufacturer selection is at the top, but my model is down here. Well, what you can do is simply click on this field and drag it up. So now I see my cell phone manufacturer. If I choose Apple, then this field is going to show up next. And then I have my selectable options from there. So we'll click OK. Another thing, these aren't showing up in order. All right, because of the numbering, the way it's laid out. So let's try this. All right, click OK. Now let's go back to our case and go to our items, and let's add another item. Let's add another cell phone. All right, we'll pick cell phone, click OK or next. And let's add in all of the required fields. Why do we have this in our custody? We need this found property. Okay, so now that we numbered those, the memory is showing up in order. Let's select Apple again. We'll choose that it was an iPhone Pro. Maybe it was 128 gigs. I did not remove the make, model, serial number, but if that is attached to your items, you could detach it if you don't need that form. After that, I'm going to save and view all the items in my case. And at the very bottom, there is my cell phone that we just entered. So now that we've attached that custom data form to those items, we can now search against it. So if we go to search and items, once again, I'm going to go with a created date between a certain date range. And that date range is going to be an Encompass 2021. And I am looking for, or I'm looking to search in custom data. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of my screen here and turn that slider from off to on. And I don't see my form. So I'll click the drop down here, pick my cell phone manufacturer's form, and I want to know how many cell phones, how many Apple cell phones I got this year. So from there, I can just save that. And click OK. Or I could, you know, you could do the same thing for LG. Save that. And we'll go with Samsung and save that. You could also go with model and find out how many iPhone 11s you took in this year, or how many iPhone 11 Pros or iPhone 5000s or whatever. Or you could, you know, go with memory as well. How much memory from those phones have you taken in over the course of the year? You know, whatever you want to do. And once you save those searches, you can then take those saved searches, go back to your dashboard, and go to your add widget box. And once again, I want to get statistics on something, so I'm going to scroll down and click statistics. That is going to put a blank widget box at the bottom of my dashboard, where I'm going to rename that by clicking the icon to the left of the X. Click OK. There we go. It got renamed. Now I'm going to start layering in the searches that I just saved by clicking the blue circle with the white plus. That brings up our Add Statistic pop-up box, where now if I click in the Save Search Field drop-down box, at the very bottom, there are the 2021 Apple cell phones, Apple phones. Everything's going to get pre-populated here where I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to save it and repeat. Click the blue circle with the white plus and go through with the LG as well as the Samsung models. Okay, and now we're going to start to get stats on these things. So for example, you can see in the 2021 Apple phones, we now have a count of 1. Now, if you hover your mouse over that number 1 and click on the number 1, it's going to run that search and bring up exactly what those items are based on the parameters you've chosen. And there we go. There's the one Apple cell phone that we've entered. And that is a little bit on what you can do in SAFE with custom data forms and conditional fields. What do you think, Ben?
Hello, Rob. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good.
You took off like a firecracker, man. I lit the fuse a little too short, man. I was like 159, and I'm like, all right, you ready to roll? And you just went kaboom. And so I just let you roll with it, brother. It looks really fantastic.
Good, good. Do we have any questions have any questions come in, or?
I have not seen any questions, but I'm not sure you even explained where questions were. So you may want to give people an opportunity for that. Like I said, man, you were a firecracker that went boom. So I didn't.
I didn't explain about the questions. It was all part of my master plan, Ben.
To cover it at the end, right? I got you.
So yeah, if anyone has any questions, please enter them in the chat window, and we'll be more than happy to answer those for you. If not, or if you want to contact me directly or any of us over here in support, we'll be more than happy if you need help with any of these, any of the custom data form building, or you want to ask questions about anything, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to go over them with you individually. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much all I have today. Would you like to add anything?
You have a question come in.
Okay, great.
When you create a widget and another user copies it, does it update the changes on their dashboard that you made on your dashboard?
Okay, that is a great question. So as you can see here, the widget IDs that I have are 7-2 and 7-3. Now, when you copy a widget, you're copying my widget. So you're going to copy these widgets by entering the widget ID of 7-2 or 7-3 by going to your add widget box and copying the user widget. You're going to put in those widget IDs, and then a copy of those widgets will then be on your dashboard. Now, when you copy those onto your dashboard, those widgets on your dashboard are going to have completely different numbers. Now, at that point, you can change your widgets around however you would like to, and no, that's not going to affect anything in my widgets. So if I update anything in my widgets, the reverse is true. It's not going to change anything on your widgets either. So if I added in Apple, LG, Samsung, if I added another manufacturer, Nokia or whatever, that would not show up on your widget. You would need to copy, put in the widget ID of 7-3 again, and then copy it, and then you would get the updated widget, but not until then. So it would not, anything that I do on my widget after you copy it is not going to show up on your widget. So great question. Any other questions come through? All I'm hearing is crickets. So I'd like, once again, that's pretty much all I have for you today. I hope everyone enjoyed the webinar. If, like I said, if you do have any questions, or if you would like to go over anything on an individual basis, please feel free to give me a call or send me an email, and I will be happy, more than happy, to walk you through whatever you need help with. Ben, do you have anything final to add?
No, I think you did a fantastic job.
Well, thanks, Ben. And thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us today on the webinar. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, rest of your week, and we'll look forward to having you again here on the next one. Thanks, everyone.